Johann Kerbrat, the head of crypto over at Robinhood.
Grew up with not a ton of things, and so when I was able to pay for my college and all this stuff was Bitcoin, I got into the crypto world, started to mine.
How Robinhood, continues to see tokenization integrate into itself.
The first good example of it is stablecoin, instant transfer, non-reversible and accessible globally.
Once you tokenize it, geo-locking is very hard. How do you guys going to tackle geo-locking?
Geo is going to be a problem, different regulations, and you have also different sanctions.
People don't realize how much crypto is happening on Robinhood.
Now I think it's getting more and more part of the culture where you receive $10 worth of USDC or feel like it's $10 the same way as if you had the hard cold cash.
Hello, everybody. I'm Gav Blacksberg, CEO at Wolf, here with Charles Menke, COO at Wolf, and a very special guest joining us today, Johann Kerbrat, the head of crypto over at Robinhood. We've had the chance to meet in person and just watch how you have built Robinhood from, what people thought about for stocks and beginners getting into stocks to really a massive hub of crypto. People don't realize how much crypto is happening on Robinhood, but there's more to it. There's depth, right? If they watch these conversations that you and Vlad have, there's tokenization, there's on-chain, there's DeFi, there's so much happening. So we're excited to get into it with you on here. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yes, my pleasure. So I'd like to just kick it off with a little bit of background because your background's fascinating. I got to talk with you at an event here in Puerto Rico, talking about your days with Vitalik and, really how you got into the world of Bitcoin and crypto as a whole. So if you could catch people up to speed and give them just a little bit about, who's this guy that's running crypto at such a large and famous company in the world, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Johann. I've been at Robinhood for about 5 years. I joined when it was kind of the beginning of the next big cycle for crypto in 21. And before that, I was on the engineering side. And so I was the VP of engineering for layer one called Ironfish, which is a privacy blockchain using zero-knowledge proof to kind of obfuscate all the details of the transactions. And before that, I was an engineer at a bunch of startups, mostly on the payment side, so Airbnb, Uber. And I had my own company back in the days in France. And that's when I kind of fell in the crypto in the crypto world. And back in the days, we thought that Bitcoin will really be the solution for payments and that everyone will actually use Bitcoin. Because it's faster and it's non-reversible, so you don't have risk of fraud or risk of people claiming back the money the same way that you can see in credit cards and wire. And so, at the time we were pretty naive, and we didn't really think that the 10 minutes block time was an issue. Obviously, now we know that it was an issue, and I think we're still figuring out really how do we use blockchain for payments at scale. But in the past few years, we've seen a lot of that. So it's been really cool to see. And I got into the crypto world, started to mine back in the days, was using Bitcoin in ways that are not smart when you know the price of today. But, the way that
a bit of selling.
Yeah,
a bit of selling.
I definitely sold. I was not the diamond hands guy.
Sure.
Grew up with not a ton of things. And so when I was able to pay for my college and all this stuff with Bitcoin, I think it was I forgot if it was 2011 or 2012 when
oh my gosh.
Bitcoin went to like 1,000. Like all my friends and I were like celebrating and super excited at the time. So, but managed to get out of college debt-free and bootstrap my company at the same time. And,
wow.
I don't regret everything. Not all of it, but definitely the vast majority.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome.
But I think, that's the same situation for most people that were in the space at the beginning. At the time, we were really focusing on the tech. We were not thinking about the appreciation of the assets for the next 10 years. And so, a bunch of people I know and myself included, we were helping people to test it, so we will send them Bitcoin just so they try it. They will have like their key on a little piece of paper that I'm sure most of it is burned or somewhere logged and we'll never get it back. So definitely something that happened.
totally. Guys, a side question. One thing I think,
Yeah.
as you're saying this from the very beginning, how has the narrative shifted for Bitcoin and crypto from the very beginning? Because in the beginning, like, it was a bunch of cypherpunks. Like, the narrative is like, the ability to transact in a way that's decentralized. Like, it's almost anti-establishment, which now
Yeah.
you've got this whole store of value narrative. I'm wondering in the very beginning, like, what did you attach to compared to now?
I mean, at the beginning, like, I think everyone in crypto was libertarian or very anti
Right? Free Ross.
establishment. Yeah, I mean, and myself was also a big reason why I got excited by it because 2008. So I'm you can hear the accent. I'm French, and
Est-ce que vous comprenez le
2008,
français?
the the economical crisis really impacted Europe, like in a way that is, like in the US, very quickly, the country rebounded and was like thinking about the next wave and all these things. But in Europe, it really took a long time. And you saw some countries' central bank like starting to freeze account or starting to slow down withdrawal and all of these
Mm.
things. So that was also the idea back in the mind, was that Bitcoin kind of give you an option there. Some of my friends were from Lebanon, where hyperinflation and a lot of things that the country has done on the currency. So all of this type of ideas at the time was, it's not just Bitcoin for payments, but it's Bitcoin for payments and also in a decentralized way. I think now it moved to this like proof of reserve that we proof of value that we
Mm-hmm.
reserve of value. Sorry, I'm gonna find my words finally. That we've seen in the past few years, a better gold and all of these kind of things. But I do think there's a lot of things that we can build on Bitcoin, and sometimes we have the tendency of looking too quickly at all the effort that are being built on top of Lightning and everything like that.
Okay. Cool. Well, thank you so much. Sorry about the side question. I was curious.
No, not at all. I think it's a great one. I kind of want to ask a little bit about how Robinhood, continues to see tokenization integrate into itself. So there was a famous moment, and I believe, Vlad was looking very dapper in his white suit, where he pulled up the chalkboard, and that moment will go down in history as he's talking about, hey, the tokenization, the different aspects. And I have heard this from more and more people recently. I have another client that owns a gold mine, and they want to tokenize the gold in the ground, right? They don't even have to take it out of the ground. Now people can trade it. And it seems like this is the way things are going. So you probably have a better idea of the bigger picture here. Can you outline for us a little bit what that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great moment, by the way, when we were all in Cannes doing this announcement, and we kept the board in the office. So if one time you come to the office, you will see it. It's pretty fun to see. Yeah, for us, tokenization is really this idea that we can simplify so much the trading and the accessibility for all type of assets, not just stocks. And that's what we are starting with, because Robinhood is a very famous brokerage and we have a lot of expertise there, but we really think that it can be expanded for any type of asset class. And people really think about tokenization. The first good example of it is stablecoin, right? We used to have the good old dollar, and it's pretty hard to wire between countries. You have to wait over the weekends. You can't, like, if I give you a bill, you can really verify the authenticity of the bill very easily unless you're really good at it. And so slowly people started to understand that that was the goal of stablecoin, bringing this instant transfer, non-reversible and accessible globally.
Right.
And you start to see the adoption. It took some time, right? Like people were worried about scams and about the reserve and all these kind of things. But now I think it's getting more and more part of the culture, where if you receive $10 worth of USDC or Tether or whatever, you feel like it's $10 the same way as if you had the hard cold cash. And so that really opened to new products and features. You can use that to transfer to anyone in the world, and 24/7 in a few seconds you can lend or borrow against it. You can carry all your cash in a little USB key or a little piece of paper, like all this stuff that you couldn't do before. And so we think we can do the same thing, but for any type of assets. And for us, we wanted to start with public stocks and ETF. We also did a giveaway for private stocks, and we are not done yet. Like we want to do a lot more on private, and we think that can expand to real estate or arts or really anything. So that right now it's so difficult to trade, and it's reserved to a very small portion of the population. But in the future, you can make that global and 24/7.
Do you think like once you tokenize it, geo locking is very hard, like almost like basically impossible in some cases if you could take the token off platform? How do you guys like gonna tackle geo locking? And I've always thought about this because right now, like a lot of apps, you just geo lock the US or you geo lock some single location. But as soon as tokenization is really valuable, where you can take that thing, go use whatever you want with it, wherever you go, take a loan against it from some random like DeFi protocol, you run into like geo issues. Like, is it more about just the issuance of the tokenized XYZ, or is it really about like where this thing can trade? I guess I don't know the landscape too much on that.
Yeah, I mean it's a combination of the three problems. So yeah, geo is going to be a problem in the sense of you have different regulations for different type of products in different countries in the world, and you have also different sanction, for example, on some countries. So we have to build a product in a way where if you want to mint or burn, you will have to be KYC'd, and you will have to verify that you're not a terrorist and all this stuff. But I think once it's on
Sure hope
DeFi,
so.
there's a you can hope, yeah. And once it's on DeFi, you have a bit more flexibility. So that's what you see currently with stablecoin. I think is there a world where DeFi is going to be more regulated? It's possible. I don't have a crystal ball on this one, but
Sure.
I think right now for us, that's where we focus on. It's really on the point of issuance, and so all the people that are buying or tokenized assets currently in the EU, they have to be KYC'd and all this kind of things. So it does restrict a bit what you can do, obviously, compared to a fully non-KYC and all of these things. But there is a moment where you do need to have this point of control to be compatible with regulation.
Yeah, totally. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm curious a little bit more so here as, the continuous intersection of TradFi and crypto. And do you think that that's going to really happen inside of Robinhood? Like a lot of people are going to now, for the first time, like see both in one place and continuously integrate. So you've onboarded a ton of different assets in that area. You've offered education within it. I'm curious if you think that this is like a major piece. And then what do you have planned for the future to continue to achieve that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think right now we're still at the very beginning of the intersection of TradFi and DeFi and crypto in general. For example, when you go on Robinhood, it's still a fairly separate section. You can buy your stocks on Microsoft and Tesla, and then you go to a different tab and you can buy your Bitcoin. I think where it gets interesting, especially on platform like Robinhood, where we have all these type of assets, is when you can create strategies between the different assets. So, for example, we have futures on crypto. We also have the ETF on crypto, but we also have the underlying. So some people can create a strategy where they will buy one and sell the other, or vice versa, and collect the premium. And we also have prediction market that is starting to roll out. So you can start hedging your position in different ways using contracts.
Interesting. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, and that's really that connection, I think, that is going to be important, where you will have really these tools that advanced trader and hedge funds and all this stuff have, but for accessible to everyone. And when you start to bring DeFi on top of it with all these lending opportunities and borrowing opportunities, you will also be able to unlock new systems, like for example, mortgage or getting a loan is still very expensive for most of the customer because there are so many middlemen that are doing the underlying and verifying your source of funds and all these funds. But on crypto, everything can be automated and part of a contract, right? So you can reduce all these costs quite a bit. And I think that's really where, Robinhood can excel, because we have excellent teams and excellent businesses on each section. And so we can very easily merge them together.
Do you think for like on-chain proof makes everything a lot easier, like, trustless systems. Do you think that this is the future of finance or a segment of finance? Like, do you think everything eventually just goes to on-chain and everything's trustless? And if you want to get a loan, it's 30 seconds. You can find all of your history in 2 moments. You can see proof of reserves, and boom, you have $200,000 in your account in 45 seconds.
I think that's where a lot of things are going to move. I just can't tell you the timeline horizon because sometimes it's very slow to get the big banks and everyone to move. But I don't know if it's all going to be on one public blockchain. There's a lot of discussion of all these big banks that are creating their own chain that are still private and still centralized, but it's just a better database for them, basically. And then you have this question of like all these stable coins, all this chain. How are we going to aggregate that and make sure that, if you have I don't know, 10 stable X, it's worth the same thing as if you had 10 USDC or something like that. But I do think that we can see the value in a lot of this blockchain technology. So, for example, you look at the adoption of stablecoin, it's taking like wildfire, right? Like a lot more institutions are using it now. They understand the value, that it's so much easier. You can create all these controls without necessarily a human being involved to send a wire. And the same thing is going to happen for everything else, where if you can clearly show that there is a benefit and on top of that there is a profit to be made, or there is money to be saved, people will just embrace it.
I'm curious, like so Robinhood makes a key decision. So like with Stripe, they came out with their own blockchain called Tempo. So when you guys are talking about this, I'm sure you guys have gone down that path of, do we start our own blockchain? And do we have this conversation? Can you open up the lid a little bit on like what really goes into a key decision, especially for a platform of your guys' size? Do we start our own blockchain? Do we have a token? Do we do all that stuff, or do we launch on somebody else's? Because I can imagine that conversation is massive, and it's got to be done in the right way because that really produces scale for the intercompany.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the fun of being at Robinhood. We have a lot of this big conversation. But, behind the scene, it's not rocket science. We will spend a lot of time talking to other folks that have made similar decision and trying to understand kind of what mental process did they go through. We'll talk to some of the issuer, like, for example, for the chain, we talk to, I don't know, many chains to understand like the pros and cons of either being a L2 or being an L1. And we, then we also have different part of the company working on it, doing modeling and revenue impact and resource cost and allocation and all these things. And then at some point, we make a recommendation and we decide on it. But I think for that particular decision, the idea was really for us that we wanted to focus on what we are the best at. And what I think we are the best at is on creating products that people use and love, where we didn't feel like we had a very strong element to bring on the table was to create a layer one from scratch and decentralize it and secure it in a way that, we're not going to get 51% attack or something like that. And so that's where the idea of Ethereum came on, where, by creating a layer on top of Ethereum, we get the security by default, we get the decentralization by default because it's already done, and there are millions of people and companies working on that aspect. And on top of that, we get access to the liquidity that is part of all the network. And on our side, we can still get the customization that we wanted to have and being able to build our layer to the way that we want to without having to worry about, having to call Ethereum or make a proposal every time we want to change something, right? And so I think that was kind of the idea versus using another chain or creating our own chain. And, overall, I think it's always the same for every decision. Like you will see with the test of time. But, a lot of my engineering team and myself, I was before, on the engineering side, we felt like this was the right decision to really focus on what we are good at.
Yeah, I could totally see that. When you're balancing all of those variables, how much does liquidity matter? Somebody once told me in this space, they said everybody wants to build where there's money. So it's very hard, and it's a bit of a chicken and egg where you want to be a blockchain and you want to have the most dApps and users, but the users bring the liquidity, but nobody builds on a chain that doesn't have liquidity already. And so it's kind of like, if you're first to the race, despite it might not even being the best product, the liquidity actually becomes the most important variable. Do you think that's the case for Robinhood, or do you think there are other variables that actually supersede liquidity?
No, liquidity is an important one. I think we are lucky enough, that as Robinhood, we have a lot of users, and so when we launch new things, usually we get, fairly easily people trying it. But on crypto, it's always a big question where the liquidity will go. There is a lot of incentives and games to play, and so it's going to be hard to say that it's an easy win on this one, I think. But I think, for us, the main focus has been to really understand what do we bring on the table that is going to be different. And for example, we didn't want to launch a chain a few years ago because we didn't have our tokenization strategy. And we didn't have yet our stock tokens and these kind of things. And we felt like now it was a good time because we have actually a product that is differentiated. And now we can actually build something that is not exactly the same as yet another chain, And I think that's really where Robinhood does well. Is you will never see us really just creating a feature that is exactly the same as the other. We usually try to bring something, either it's a better value prop, or it's a better UI or design, or it's something that is easier to use. But we really try to be differentiated from our competition.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for giving me a look under the hood. I know Gav had some other questions he wanted to ask. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think I love everything you're covering. I know we only have a few minutes left. One thing which has really intertwined, it seems like, TradFi and crypto is this rise of digital asset treasuries. You've seen a lot of companies, you've seen a lot of politicians, getting into this area. Just curious your thoughts on those and how you think they'll continue to progress.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we went from everyone ignored crypto for a very long time, and to be honest, maybe I'm missing that time. To suddenly we had this huge charcoal really on the products, and people were leaving the States, and basically the innovation in the crypto space was mostly dead. To this new administration where things are actually being embraced. So I think ideally in the US in particular, we find a good middle ground where, it's not this constant fight, and depending on who's the president, things are going to go one way or the other. I do think, crypto is here to stay. We've seen it multiple times now, and we are seeing a lot of regions in the world that are actually embracing it, creating the right regulation or structure for people to actually innovate in the space. And so I'm hoping that we can also get there and, get a clear rule set up so that, there is no way, no more of this question of should I try to build in the US, or should I just completely go and expat in Asia or something where I know I will be safe. But I think so far, what is bringing the most enthusiasm to me is seeing a lot of this institution embracing crypto, from stablecoin adoption to tokenization now that a lot of people are talking about it. And, I think once people really understand what is the benefits of crypto, and you don't have to constantly answer this question and why does it matter, people will just, keep it and not worry about it anymore.
One thing I wanted to ask too, we only got 4 minutes here, but maybe we can get this, maybe we can't. But in the before, right before Trump came into office, I remember the polar opposite. I mean, we had choke point 1 and 2. They were basically shutting down banks that were even supplying things for crypto related companies, and they were you're not gonna, even if you were paired ASICs, they were shutting down your bank. It was very hard for you guys at Robinhood. I don't know if you were there during this time, but during this time, was the embargo or the stopping behind innovation, just how can we innovate in the political climate that is so anti this thing? And did that keep you guys wary from even going down this path? And did that political shift really open up the narrative and even just the ability for you guys to pivot as a company and create something that you're excited about?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we work with multiple type of administration, and so we know very well this type of issues. And we had our fair share of issue, like the bank situation, like you mentioned. We also got a Wells notice from the SEC. Like
Yeah.
we had our own difficulties with the product, and it definitely limited what we were able to launch and to support for our customer. And it's still the case in some situations. For example, we have staking that is not available in multiple states, including California, where I live. So it's very frustrating for me to not be able to use my own product. Um,
Totally.
so, and same thing, in other states where there are different rules and regulations, so we don't have exactly the same feature set. So it's still a problem, but I think for us, and for me especially as the lead, our goal is to be able to navigate this situation. So during this year of enforcement and a lot of activity, we were more focusing on building outside of the US. So that's where we really focused on launching in the EU. We also really focused on our self-custody wallet. And we were also cooking some feature that we wanted to be ready if the climate will shift at some point.
Super smart.
So I think that was kind of the ideas, and basically if tomorrow the crypto regulation will change completely against crypto again, that will be probably what we will do. Like we'll focus more on crypto on other parts of the country, of the world. But I think that's the sad part, in a way. It's,
Absolutely.
I immigrated into the US because I felt like the tech and the innovation was growing so much faster in the US versus Europe and France in particular. And, during the past 4 or 5 years, I was actually seeing people going back to Europe or France to actually build because they had this framework called MiCA there that regulate crypto. So, that's a part that I hope we don't get back to, and I hope we can just focus on building them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Johann. I appreciate it. Please.
Yeah, this was epic. Great questions from Charles. Johann, pleasure having you on. Glad we got to meet in person. You guys are clearly driving the future of blockchain technology forward at a very rapid pace. So we're excited to follow along from our end and continue to cover it. Thanks so much for coming on.
Awesome. That was great. See you soon, guys.
Thank
Talk
you,
soon, my
Charles.
friend. All right, bye.